Sarah. John's voice came roaring up from the basement like a freight train, yanking her out of her afternoon coffee haze. Get down here. Now. Startled, she blinked, set her mug down in the sink with a soft clink, and furrowed her brow. What the hell was that about? Something fall? Pipes leaking again? With a sigh, she headed for the basement, the wooden steps groaning beneath her weight like they didn't want her going down there either. The sharp, unforgiving glare of a single hanging bulb made her squint as she reached the bottom. John was standing stiff in the far corner, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and a mess of old papers scattered like someone had been digging for buried treasure. In his hand was a little book, faded pink cover, edges worn. Her heart skipped a beat. "That better not be my diary," she said, trying to laugh, but the sound fell flat. Hollow. She already knew the answer. She didn't feel too worried at first. Those journals were ancient history, leftovers from another life. Hell, she hadn't cracked one open in years, maybe even forgotten most of what she wrote. But something about the way John was holding himself, rigid shoulders tight, face locked in a grim stare, made the hairs rise on her arms. He turned toward her, slow like a man who'd just seen something he couldn't unsee. And his face, God, it wasn't just pissed off. It was a mix of shock and something worse, disgust. "Yeah, Sarah," he said, voice low and steady in a way that chilled her bones. "Your diary. The one you used to keep some real, creative records in." She swallowed hard. "John, come on. I used to write all kinds of dumb stuff when I was young. It's probably nothing." She stepped forward, hand out, silently pleading for him to just hand it over and move on. But he didn't let go. His grip only tightened. "I don't think it's nothing," he said through gritted teeth. "Because what I just read," he paused, nostrils flaring, a tremble in his jaw. "My God, Sarah, you've wrecked me." Her pulse kicked into overdrive, pounding loud in her ears like a war drum. "What are you talking about?" she asked, barely getting the words out. John flipped the diary open, landing on a dog-eared page like he'd marked it for the kill. His voice quivered with rage as he read aloud. "I wish John would just marry me already, but I'm so damn tired of waiting. Chris is way more fun, and oh, that thing Chris did with his..." He broke off, exhaling sharply like he was trying not to throw the book across the room. "Wait," he said, flipping the page. "There's more, and it's not just Chris." Sarah's stomach turned to stone. Oh no, this wasn't about one old screw-up. This was deeper, uglier. She could barely remember what she wrote back then. Some of it fantasy, some real, some blurred in between. She'd been a mess of emotions in those days. Young, needy, reckless. Writing it felt like her only outlet, a weird little rush she didn't understand. "John," she started, her voice light, fake. Too fake. This was forever ago. Why does any of it still? "Don't." His voice cracked into a shout, cutting her off like a whip. "Just stop talking." The veins in his neck were bulging, his hands shaking now. He wasn't done. John's hands were trembling as he flipped through the pages, his voice barely steady, like a man holding back a storm. "I can't stop thinking about how Dave slammed me against the wall last night," he read, each word cutting like broken glass. "The way his fingers felt on my skin. John's out of town again, and I'm so damn lonely." His jaw clenched as he turned another page. "Maybe I'll have Dave over this weekend, too. Who would have thought I'd be the kind of woman to be with more than one guy in a single day?" He stared down at the book in disbelief. "But here I am, Joe in the morning, Will at night. The high I get from it, you can't describe it. I know it might be wrong, but no one's getting hurt. John doesn't have to know. Once we're married, I'm sure I'll calm down." Each sentence hit John like another punch to the gut, like the woman he thought he married had never really existed. Sarah stood frozen, hand over her mouth, her body cold all over. She had completely forgotten the diary held more than just that thing with Chris. It was all there, one guy after another. Real encounters, secret hookups, stolen kisses that turned into full-blown affairs, and then the fantasies, some of them graphic enough to make a stranger blush. "John," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "That was 3 decades ago. It doesn't mean anything anymore." He looked at her like she was a stranger who had just wandered into his life wearing his wife's face. Then, with a sudden movement, he snapped the diary shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "Doesn't mean anything," he growled, holding the book out like it was poison. "You're seriously standing there, telling me this crap about you bragging on every page about screwing guy after guy. Does it matter?" Sarah instinctively stepped back, her shame quickly turning into something sharper, defensive, bitter. She squared her shoulders, arms crossing tight over her chest. She hated how small she felt, and she sure as hell wasn't going to let him see that. "I'm not her anymore," she said, cool and clipped. "I was young. I made mistakes." "Mistakes?" John shot back, his voice rising. "You were doing this while we were already engaged." "Oh, for God's sake, John," she snapped, rolling her eyes. "You're acting like this is some brand new betrayal. It's ancient history, older than our whole damn marriage." She shook her head. "I haven't even seen those men in decades." But John wasn't backing down. His voice thundered across the basement, shaking the shelves and whatever illusion of peace had been left. "I deserve to know who I was marrying," he bellowed. "Instead, you fed me some bullshit story about being anxious because I was leaving for college. Meanwhile, you were jumping into bed with whoever looked your way the second I turned around." Sarah flinched, but she wouldn't let it show. "It was only a few times," she muttered through clenched teeth, though even as she said it, the truth flashed back at her. Blurry faces, hurried encounters, names she could barely remember. More than a few. Way more. John's eyes locked onto hers, cold and sharp, like steel. "You said a few times," he repeated. "Why don't you go ahead and read what you actually wrote?" He held the diary up like it was a mirror to her soul. Page after page, Sarah. One guy, then another, like some kind of runaway train with no brakes. "And the stuff you described." He swallowed hard, his face pale now. "God, it made me sick." "I can't believe this," Sarah said, her voice stiff as steel, her jaw tightening. "It's over and done with. You can't go back and rewrite the past." John let out a dry, bitter laugh, one that didn't carry an ounce of humor. "Oh, that's your big defense," he said, shaking his head. "That it doesn't matter just because it happened decades ago." She gave a half-hearted shrug, trying to look unbothered, like she could toss the whole thing aside with a little attitude. But inside, her stomach was flipping like a roller coaster. Panic was bubbling up fast, but hell if she was going to let him see it. "People do stupid shit in their 20s, she said flatly. "Time to move on." But John wasn't letting anything slide. He turned and dug into another dusty box, yanking off the lid and sifting through stacks of old photos and yellowed keepsakes. "And you kept these too?" he said, his voice laced with disbelief. "Started to think maybe you like reliving every filthy memory." Sarah recognized the box instantly. She should have burned it years ago. Old Polaroids, trinkets from parties she barely remembered but should have never documented. He pulled out one photo, and the moment she saw it, her heart just about seized. "Who are these guys?" John asked, slow and deliberate, like every word carried weight. His eyes flicked from the picture to her, searching her face for any sign of truth. The photo said it all. There was Sarah, lounging on a battered couch, barely dressed, tight top riding up, messy hair falling in her face, beaming like she'd won the damn lottery. 5 men surrounded her, each one with a smug grin plastered on his face. One flexed a ridiculous bicep. Another made a crude gesture behind her. Their arms were draped around her like they knew her a little too well. But the worst part wasn't them. It was her. She looked thrilled, like she was exactly where she wanted to be. Sarah tried to shrug it off with a smirk. "Oh, come on. That's just some random party shot. Means nothing." But the energy in the photo said otherwise. The way they were all touching her, the wild glint in her eyes, her rumpled clothes, it didn't look innocent. And scrawled across the bottom in thick black marker were the words, "The best night ever." John stared at it like it was a photograph of a stranger. His eyes shimmered with tears that refused to fall. Why did you keep this?" he asked quietly, voice on the edge of breaking. "Why would you hang on to a memory of something that just gets everything we had?" She shrugged again, but it wasn't confident anymore. More of a twitch, a nervous reflex. I didn't even remember it was in there. He stared at her for a long beat, then let the photo fall from his hand like it was on fire. "Get out," he said, voice rough. "What?" Sarah blinked, confused for a second. "I said get out." His eyes locked onto hers, unblinking. Sarah spun on her heel and stormed upstairs, tears burning her eyes. But her expression twisted into a mask of anger. A scowl carved across her face. "This is so damn stupid," she muttered. "We've had years of good times, and now he wants to throw it all in the trash over ancient crap from before we were even married?" She stomped into the kitchen, furious. Why the hell had he even gone digging in the basement in the first place? Moments later, John followed, diary open in one hand, a small stack of photos in the other. His expression had gone cold. Scary cold. "You're going to your parents," he said, flat and calm. And somehow, that quiet tone hit harder than his yelling ever could. "You don't get to banish me," she snapped. "I live here too." "Not anymore," he said, not raising his voice. "Not until I figure out what the hell I'm supposed to do with all of this." He held up the diary like it was a court exhibit. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" John's voice shook. 30 years thinking we had something real, and now I wonder if it was a lie from the start. Sarah rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, John. If it was all fake, how did we end up with such a good life?" He was trembling, breath shallow. "Was it good, Sarah? Or did you just run out of men and settle for the safest option?" "This is exactly what I mean," she snapped. "You're turning this into something it's not. I had a wild streak, big deal. People grow up." John's lips pressed into a hard line. "Pack your things, or I'll pack them for you." She wanted to push back, but one look told her he wasn't bluffing. With a scoff, she turned and went upstairs. She yanked clothes into a suitcase while he paced outside the bedroom like a ticking bomb. Just before zipping the bag, she spotted the family photo on the nightstand. Her, John, their daughter, and the boy they raised as his. The memory hit her, matching sweaters, laughing, a perfect day. She picked it up, whispered, "He'll calm down. He has to." Outside, John stood like stone at the front door. She dragged her suitcase to the car, chin up defiant. "This is insane," she told him, glaring. "You're going to regret this." He swallowed, but didn't say a word. Driving away, she checked the rearview mirror. He was still there, holding the diary like it was proof of war. In that moment, she hated him, almost as much as she hated herself. Small towns talk fast. By the time she got to her parents' place, her phone buzzed nonstop. A message from Cindy read. "He's telling everyone at the bar what he read. Are you okay?" Sarah hissed through her teeth. John wasn't just hurting. He was making a public show of it. "He's humiliating me," she thought, tossing her phone aside. Her parents opened the door, looking pale and confused. They adored John. Always had. Through clenched teeth, Sarah muttered. "He found some old diaries. He's blowing things way out of proportion over a few affairs before we got married." Her mother blinked. If it was before the wedding, why is he so upset? "It's complicated," Sarah said, avoiding her eyes. No way she was mentioning the engagement overlap, or the photo with 5 guys. She could only imagine the look on her father's face if he ever heard the full truth. Meanwhile, John was on a video call with both their kids, spilling everything. Within hours, Sarah's phone lit up with her daughter's name. "How could you do that to Dad?" Her daughter's voice cracked with fury. "Cheating on him with God. Knows how many guys. That's disgusting." Sarah's face flushed. "Watch your tone, young lady." "Oh, so now you're going to play mom? You don't get to act like the victim. Dad showed us the diary pages. Scan them, Mom. You wrote about hooking up with 5 different men in 1 week while engaged." Sarah's grip tightened on the phone. "It's out of context, and it was decades ago." There was a sharp breath on the line. "You lied to him. You lied to us. I used to admire you, and now I'm just disgusted." Then silence. A few days later, Sarah tried to reach out again. She wanted to fix things, especially with her daughter, who barely responded. But then came the worst call yet. Her daughter's voice was calm, too calm. "Mom, I sent in a DNA test." Sarah froze. Her mind jumped straight to that timeline. She'd always assumed John was the father. Hoped, really. What? Why would you do that? She asked, voice dry. For genealogy, her daughter said. But you know it shows more than that. Sarah's stomach turned. Honey, those tests, they're not always accurate. They're accurate enough, her daughter snapped. Dad did one too. We'll find out. Sarah closed her eyes. Okay, she whispered. Do what you have to. The waiting was torture. Each day chipped away at her nerves until the results came. Her phone buzzed. Her daughter's name flashed. Mom, came the shaking voice. It says he's not my biological father. Sarah's heart crumbled. She couldn't speak. Oh my God. It's true. How could you? Her daughter cried. Was my whole life a lie? Sarah choked out. I suspected, but I didn't know. I thought maybe. I'm sorry. She heard her daughter sobbing. Dad's leaving. He's moving, somewhere near his parents in Florida. Says he can't stay here. Not after this. You have to fix this, she pleaded. Sarah felt like she might collapse. How? Your father. He raised you. He loves you. That hasn't changed. But he's not my real father, her daughter said coldly. Everything's changed. Click. The line went dead again. Sarah drove back to the house, shaken, embarrassed, terrified. When she walked in, John stood in the living room. His eyes were red. You've got some nerve, he said. She stood tall. I came for my things. He laughed bitterly. You should probably take everything. I'm moving. For good. She stopped. What about us? There is no us, Sarah, he said. You lied. You cheated before we were married. And now we find out she's not even mine. Sarah's gut twisted. She wanted to argue, to say it was all ancient history. But that DNA test had shattered the last thread. John, she said softly, I didn't know. I loved you. That's why I chose you, not the others. And you raised her. That counts. His eyes narrowed. Counts for something? Jesus, Sarah, you let me believe she was mine. I read her bedtime stories. Taught her to ride a bike. Paid for her damn college, John said, voice raw. And you couldn't even tell me there was a chance she wasn't mine? Sarah stepped forward, arms out. I was protecting you. And her. She sees you as her dad. John's laugh was bitter. Protecting me? That's rich. You decided for me that I didn't deserve the truth. You play God. She reached for him, but he stepped back. Don't, he said coldly. You came back here for sympathy. Or damage control. His eyes flicked over her with disgust. Arrogant. Selfish. That's who you are. Sarah snapped. Arrogant? You're the one airing all of this to the whole damn town. Humiliating me. Good, John shouted. You deserve it for all the lies. Her fists clenched. And you think you're better? Walking around like a saint while dragging me through the dirt. John's jaw locked. Then, quieter, firmer, leave. Now. She hesitated, but his finger pointed toward the door. Leave, or I'll call the cops. Sarah stared at him, eyes burning, but turned and slammed the door on her way out. Once inside her car, she broke down. Why are you crying? She muttered. You did this. He's right. In their tiny town, word traveled like wildfire. By the end of the week, Sarah couldn't even buy groceries without people whispering behind her back. Did you hear? The daughter's not his. Heard she was sleeping with 5 guys at once. There's a photo. The shame was suffocating. In the cereal aisle, she overheard 2 women saying John was leaving town for good, and that Sarah got what she deserved. She abandoned her cart and ran. Outside, her phone buzzed. It was her mom. Sarah, get home. John's on the line. He wants to talk. Heart pounding, Sarah rushed back. Her mom hovered by the speakerphone. Sarah. John's voice came through drained. I need a favor. She blinked. A favor. I'm leaving for Florida next week, he said. I need you to sign separation papers. Her gut twisted. A separation? John, please don't. Sign, he said, or I'll file for divorce. No negotiation. You'll get nothing. Her parents looked horrified. Sarah rubbed her temples, shaking. So that's how this ends? She snapped. You're leaving me high and dry after 30 years. You left me the day you chose to lie. So yes, sign the papers or I'll make it ugly. Tears welled up. Fine. Send them. Weeks passed with silence. Sarah ignored texts and calls. Then word reached her that John had been seen with Jennifer. Chris's ex-wife. That one stung. Unbelievable, she muttered. He's doing exactly what I did and flaunting it. Jealousy burned in her chest. John had every right, but it still felt like betrayal all over again. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You reap what you sow. Jennifer. Sarah stared at the screen, heart pounding. Don't respond, she told herself, even as her hand shook with rage. Still, she typed a reply. Leave me alone. You have no business in my marriage. A minute later, it's not your marriage anymore, sweetie. He deserves better. Sarah clenched her jaw, forcing herself to stop replying. They can have each other, she thought bitterly, though regret throbbed beneath the anger. I never realized it could all fall apart so fast. That cold Sunday morning, Sarah drove back to what she still considered her house. She needed closure, or at least a final conversation. Maybe John would soften. Maybe he'd remember what they once were. The driveway was half filled with moving boxes. John and a friend were loading them into a rental truck. When he saw her pull in, his face tightened like a door slamming shut. Why are you here? He asked before she'd even stepped out. She ignored his friend's stare. We need to talk. Alone. John hesitated, then gave a short nod. Inside, the living room was almost empty. Boxes lined the walls. The couch they'd shared for years was already gone. He crossed his arms. Say it. Sarah's voice wavered. John, I know I messed up, but we've been married 30 years. That should count. I was young, stupid, but I've been faithful since. He scoffed. I don't know that. You were pretty convincing when you were lying. I'm telling the truth now, she said, stepping closer. Yes, our daughter might not be yours biologically, but you raised her. You were her dad in every way that mattered. And I love you. His jaw twitched. You should have thought of that before lying to me for 30 years. It was a mistake, she whispered. Don't throw us away. He shook his head slowly. A few months ago, maybe I'd have heard you out. But those diaries, they're old, she tried. Doesn't matter if they're from yesterday or 93. You let me think I was marrying someone loyal. Instead, it was all lies. Dave, Joel. Hell, 5 guys in one photo. She flinched but stood her ground. I can't change the past. And I can't change how I feel, he said softly. Tears spilled down her cheeks. So that's it. You're leaving me. He nodded. We've been divorced emotionally for a long time. The paperwork just makes it official. I don't belong in this house, this town. I'm done. She reached for one last hope. What about therapy? Just to talk. No, he said firmly. I won't spend my life wondering if it'll happen again. I look at you, and all I see is betrayal. She dropped her gaze, defeated. So you're off to Florida. With Jennifer, right? He didn't deny it. At least she doesn't have a hidden diary. But that's irrelevant now. We're done. Anger surged. You're no saint either. If you can't forgive. He cut her off with a bitter laugh. God, Sarah, you still don't get it. This isn't about forgiveness. It's about the foundation of everything being fake. You build our life on lies. The daughter, the marriage, hell, even the son. She froze. He stared at her. I did a second test. Just to be sure. You knew, didn't you? Sarah's knees nearly buckled. I suspected, but I didn't want to believe it. You let me raise a child that wasn't mine. 2 children. You let me name him. Teach him how to shave. You let me love him like a father. I didn't know for sure, she cried. And you were a great father. Still are. But I was never their father, he said coldly. They stood in silence until his friend peeked in. Hey, truck's ready. John nodded. Right. Sarah's eyes pleaded. But he turned, grabbed his coat, and walked out without another word. Days turned to weeks. John left for Florida. Their daughter took a job in New York City. Their son stayed distant in St. Louis. Silent, cold, unreachable. Sarah remained in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by ghosts. She spent her nights staring at old photos, remembering birthdays, backyard BBQs, quiet smiles. Remembering how it all started unraveling in that basement. That damn diary. Her phone rarely rang. When it did, it was someone fishing for gossip. She ignored them all. She knew what they were saying. She cheated. Hid the truth. He raised kids that weren't his. Sometimes, in the dark, she thought of driving to Florida. knocking on his door, begging. But she never did. The John she loved, who held her hand at the hospital when their son was born, was gone. Emotionally, spiritually, everything. In desperation, she sent her daughter a text. "I'm so sorry, honey. I love you. I hope you can forgive me. How's the new apartment?" No reply. She left her son a voicemail. Tearful, rambling. "Please call me. I love you both more than anything." Nothing. The silence became her new normal. One evening, her father found her sitting in the dark, unmoving. "Talk to them," he said gently. "They won't answer. They're hurting, especially your daughter. Her whole identity shattered." "I know," Sarah whispered. "And it's my fault." Her father sighed. "You might have lost John, but don't lose your kids. Let them be angry. Apologize again. 1,000 times if you have to. Just don't stop trying." She nodded, burying her face in her hands. Months passed. Sarah picked up a part-time job in a boutique, cooked meals for her parents, pretended not to notice how empty she felt. John was somewhere near Jacksonville, renting a house by the water. Rumors said Jennifer was with him. Maybe not. Sarah tried not to care, but she did. Her daughter only texted about paperwork. Her son never replied at all. At night, Sarah lay awake, haunted by memories. The group photo, the lies, the day she saw the plus sign and never asked herself whose baby it really was. The past doesn't stay buried. It hides in boxes, in diaries, in photos stuffed in dusty corners. And one day it detonates. Sometimes, as she drifted into shallow sleep, she'd hear John's voice. "You built our marriage on lies." Maybe he was right. And in her dreams, she saw him laughing, loving her, holding their, not really their, children. She woke up crying. Every time, and life for Sarah just went on. Quiet, fragmented, filled with ghosts. There was no rewriting that story, only living with it. Alone,